All right, now we're joined by Alice Woldt, who is here on behalf of Peter Steinbrueck, who's running for Port Commission position 4. So go ahead with a 2-minute introduction.
Okay. So I've known Peter Steinbrueck for many years, all of the time that he served in the City Council, which was 10 years, from 1997 to 2007. He and Nick Licata were always the go-to guys if you wanted something progressive to be introduced and passed in the City Council. And his mission and focus for his business, which is an urban design and architectural firm, I think really says what he's about. It says to have a positive human and environmental impact through thoughtful planning, good design, and retooling of the urban environment with a focus on urban environmental policy, sustainable development and green infrastructure, architecture, urban design and planning, land use and zoning, historic preservation, government, public policy, and legislative process. And as a city council member, he is an experienced leader in many of the positions of the processes and policies that the port deals with. And he has been a long time Democrat all his life. He is a member of the 43rd District. He's been a past member of the 46th District when the boundaries were different. He is a strong supporter of the 36th District Democratic platform. He has been, and the reason he's running is to advance port jobs, to advance good, hardworking jobs that the port provides, social equity and environment, and especially climate change. Just not only his experience as a city council member, but as a longtime community activist, I think he deserves our support and our endorsement.
Great, thank you. So now we have 4 prepared questions. We're asking all candidates for Port Commission, and they're actually written right in front of you if you want to turn over the piece of paper and read along as we read them aloud.
Okay.
These are 2-minute answers, and I think we left off John, we do number 1.
Sure. What is your plan to keep the Port of Seattle competitive when other ports offer similar services at lower costs?
I think Peter believes that the port is strong, and it will continue to be strong as long as the Port Commission provides good leadership and provides a way for the city of Seattle and the port to get along. And I believe that his experience will help that.
And Clayton, number 2.
What is your position on the leasing of port facilities to oil drilling operations?
Well, that's kind of a given. His strong position on the environment and climate change, I mean, he would fight to his death to keep the sound oil-free. And I mean, one of his issues in the past has been the cruise ships and the dumping that they've done and so on, and the possibility of their creating an oil spill.
Thank you.
Liz, number 3.
What changes or reforms do you support for the Port Commission itself?
Well, one of the things that that he has worked on as a city council member is to keep the marine and the port jobs, and specifically Ballard and Interbay marine jobs and the marine commercial businesses there and working. And he's very concerned about good family paying family jobs and jobs that will provide families with a good standard of living. So I think that he will try to, well, he is concerned also about the scandal that happened this past year and how much the Port Commission really needs to make the executive staff accountable, and he has done that in the city and city council, and implementing budgets and providing budget oversight and so on. So I think whether that's a reform or not, I think it's definitely something, the accountability and transparency is something that is really necessary.
And Elizabeth, number 4.
Do you believe we have achieved full transparency in the port's contracting and compensation practices? And where do you see possibilities for further improvement?
I asked Peter about the port involvement in the CTAC $15 minimum wage issue, and the fact that the port sort of drugged its feet. He said, well, you know, he understood the concern that there was, they don't want to give any of their authority up to local municipalities and so on. But he also said he thought they could have done better, that they could have maintained that position, but at the same time really encouraged the $15 minimum wage. And that's one of the things that he said he would look into if elected to the port, to make sure that they are paying all their employees at least $15 an hour. And let's see, I think, you know, his issue around what happened this past year I mentioned before with the CEO, and the CEO getting a boost in his wages, but not necessarily the working staffs that work for the port.
Great, so now we'll open up to follow-up questions. These are one that it answers. I have one, and then David. So most people in the room know why you're here instead of Peter. But I wanted, for the camera, will you explain for up to 60 seconds, where's Peter right now and why can't he be with us this week?
Peter's in Paris, and this trip was planned prior to his deciding to run for the Port Commission, and it was too late to change his plans. And my God, what a great time to be in Paris, huh? Yeah. The election is happening. But he is keeping up with what's happening here, because he was on a webinar on the city's tree umbrella, or whatever you call it, the tree canopy, yeah, just yesterday morning, so.
And I'll just state for the camera that I offered the opportunity for a phone and Skype interview, but of course it's the middle of the night in Paris, so it wouldn't afford for him. So Ben and David.
So what plans does Pete have to make the port more environmentally friendly? The airport is in addition to the seaport.
Yeah, he knows that the airport is a problem, especially with the noise and so on. You know, what he would like to do is shrink the footprint of the port, the environmental footprint, and I'm not sure how he would do that. It's something that we can follow up with him. But it is his second most important reason for running, is to decrease the footprint of the port, the environmental footprint.
David?
So, we've got half the city either running for port commission or mayor. We've interviewed quite a few port commission candidates through this process. This first time the cruise ships came up, and it made me kind of wish that I'd been asking this question of the other guys. But clearly, you've been talking to Peter Steinbrueck, and he's expressed concern about the pollution impact of these tourist ships, which, you know, have a very positive economic impact on the city. And let's wondering if you could expand on the impact they have environmentally.
Well, I don't know that they have, I don't know what kind of regulations there are in force now, but at one time, they had they were dumping effluents into the sound. And, so it was somewhat unregulated. And I think, you know, given the reaction nationally against, from the Trump administration against environmental protections, you know, I think we need people in place that are going to watch for those kinds of policies and oppose them. One of the things that he did, he opposed the port's changing the fisherman's terminal to a moorage for yachts, and instead keeping it as a fisherman's terminal, so that the Pacific Fleet, fishing fleet has a place. His brother and his son are fishermen and work out of Fisherman's Terminal. So he has a family commitment as well as his own personal public service commitment of experience with working on environmental issues.
So, did you have one?
So, as important as the port is to our city and our economy, sort of the average person has no idea what the port commission does or who they are, and probably couldn't name a port commissioner. What should the community be looking for in a port commissioner?
Well, I think someone with experience in public policy, for one, and specifically experience in those issues that the port is really involved in. Transportation, obviously, environmental issues, good jobs, and I think a working economy. And I think Peter is really committed to working on all of those issues and has experience working on them. So I think the public policy issues are really, really important for port commissioners to work on. I agree with you that, and other than the 34th district, there is no district in King County that is impacted by the port as the 36th district. So I think it's really incredibly important for this district to take a careful look at all of the candidates. I tried finding them on the PDC and looking up to see the ones that I found, none of them had raised any money. So I don't know what that means as far as their credibility.
Liz and then John.
So I also kind of want to ask a hard question. It's hard because you're Alice and Peter's Peter, and I know you both very well. But a lot of candidates, this is considered a part-time job. The pay is not super duper high, and most people do keep their day jobs. I have run into Peter over the last few years in his day job, and at particular times when he has been a consultant for wealthy condo owners in development cases, and I have oftentimes been, unfortunately, on the other side of the table from him, which is never fun. However, there are a couple of cases that are going to be coming up where I live on Elliott Bay, right on the port. And I'm wondering if, as a commissioner, Peter will be able to recuse himself from those cases, if there should be a conflict of interest, given his work with the condo owners in cases such as these.
Well, I would think that if he had actually had a contract with the condo developer or condo owner, that he would recuse himself. Otherwise, he is in the business of planning and architecture, and so I can understand why he might have clients that would conflict with, locations that are close to Elliott.
Thank you, Ray.
Great, John.
I have a related question. I think one of the lines on the materials talks about Peter being a internationally known, or nationally recognized architect, I'd say internationally in some cases, given his global work. He's a busy guy, but as we know, the port has a lot of problems, and you need to be on top of some of the issues. Some of the things we've seen around oil rigs, around the scandals with pay. Is there anything that he would change so that he can spend the amount of time that's needed to do the job done?
Well, you know, he re-entered his personal architectural and planning work after he left the council, and he ran for mayor and didn't win, obviously. But you know, all the time that he was on the city council, he was not doing the work of his firm. He has other people that are working in his firm. So, and given it is, given the Port Commission is a part-time job, I'm sure that he will continue to do some management of it. But, you know, Peter is a really dedicated and committed public servant. You know, and I think that's why he's also running for the port, because he misses that whole milieu of public service and public policy. And, you know, you probably don't, many of you probably don't know that his father was also an architect and is credited with saving the Pike Place market. So he comes from a long history of family, you know, family service and jobs like the port provides.
We have time for a couple more questions. Anybody has? Anybody? Comments?
What are Peter's plans in terms of, you know, an airport that has to, excuse me, sustain the growth of, I've heard a number projection of another 1 million by 2025 in this area. So, and this would go for the entire commission, I would ask, but, you know, what is he seeing in terms of the growth?
Yeah, I'll have to admit, I don't know the answer to that. He does plan to be at the straw poll, and I would really encourage you to engage with him then and ask him about that. He is concerned about the airport and the environmental impacts, and so I'm sure that he'll be looking for a way to mitigate that.
Additional questions? Well, I'll ask one. Alice, you're here. You've supported Peter. I wonder if you take 60 seconds to sort of talk about how long have you known him? Why are you motivated enough to come to our interview party in order to talk about it? Like, what is it that gets you motivated to come out here at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night to talk about Peter?
You know, he called and asked me, you know, I said, I'm so sorry that I can't be there. I really wanted to be there, and so he was kind of at loose ends on what to do, and he's known me and I've known him for at least 20 years, if not longer. And I wouldn't say I consider him a good friend, but he's been a good friend of Nick Licata. He's always been very supportive of efforts to end homelessness and to create more low-income and affordable housing, and has really supported zoning efforts and so on that would help do that. And I know him a lot from all the housing issues that he's been involved in. So, yeah.
Great. So we are about out of time. If you want to take 30 seconds for a closing statement.
So, with his experienced leadership and he knows public policy, he's a collaborator and a consensus builder, and I don't see how we could go wrong in endorsing him. He is very thankful that you allow me to come in his place. And would have liked to done anything he could have to be here himself, or to at least interview with you himself. But as I said, he will be at the straw poll and hopes to engage with anyone who has follow-up questions then. And I just, and I want to thank you too for letting me come and talk for him.
Great.
I can't say that I did as good a